everyone, and welcome to the Avoiding Bad Technology Choices and Vendor Lock-in webcast. This is the second session in our webinar series, How to Fast-Track Multi-Cluster Kubernetes Deployments in Hybrid Cloud Environments. All lines will be muted throughout the session, but please use the Q&A button to ask questions at any time. We will be answering your questions throughout the event. To turn on English subtitles, please use the closed captioning button at the bottom of your screen. And a quick note, this session is being recorded and will be available for you to watch again following the event. Please welcome our speakers for today, Sid Joshi, Director of Product Management, Enterprise Cloud Native Java, and Mitch Dsouza, Master Principal Sales Consultant, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure Software. Mitch, over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and thanks for joining the webinar. I'm based out in the Middle East and working primarily in the field, and I wanted to catch up with a colleague, Sid, who looks after products in Oracle that are the workhorse for large enterprises, and see if he can help me, and actually, more importantly, if he can help my customers with the challenges they're facing. So welcome, Sid, and glad to have you here.
Hey, Mitch, nice to see you, buddy. It's been a long while. And hello, everyone. I hope you're having a good day.
So great, thanks, Sid. So as part of my interaction with customers who are going down a digital transformation journey, most of them are coming across various challenges such as infrastructure modernization. And this really is either on dedicated servers on-prem or whether they're moving to a cloud. Of course, the infrastructure software matters a lot. Next is application modernization, and we hear this a lot. There's moving from traditional application development and looking to adopt modern trends such as cloud native and microservices. And actually, sad to say, we still see single legacy language development with some of our customers. Now, the other thing is how they can avoid making bad technology choices. I'm seeing a lot more customers embrace open source, which no doubt is great, but there are so many options out there. I think the myriad of choices out there are leading to confusion and slower overall adoption, in my experience. Next is vendor lock-in. Now, this is a big one. No one really wants to be locked in, right? Open source cloud native services are good, but how can they achieve the same functionality if they have to do this on-prem and in the cloud? They really want to see how portable a solution is before they jump in. And finally, how they can manage risk and cost efficiency. So cost, of course, is probably the biggest one here. Everyone wants a cost-effective solution while not tying them down to a proprietary offering. I'll elaborate a bit here. They really want a simplified adoption methodology and automation from a platform that is agnostic to where you run the application. This is the key, I'm told, is to avoid lock-in risk, which goes back really to the previous point. And using open source stack, which is great, and enterprise-grade support helps a lot around the various challenges that are faced. So, Sid, how can you help us with that?
I think these are some of the key challenges not only faced by your customers, but most enterprises out there, my friend. And the key thing is to keep in mind whether the enterprises are modernizing either their infrastructure or applications, they need to ensure they're getting the true portability, not only adversely getting into the locking by adopting some of the technologies that could be easily usable in the cloud or on premises. For example, a customer might say, hey, it's easier for me to build a modern solution in a cloud environment. It's easy for me to create new services and so on. But inadvertently, they might be just getting locked in because they might have not made a conscious choice, but that service is not available anywhere else apart from that particular cloud vendor and in a particular nuances, right? And they could achieve something similar on premises by picking a technology which is just offered in that proprietary way. So this kind of challenges is very common and key for our customers. And in summary, I would just like to say one thing with your customers and our enterprises to keep in mind is, can they achieve the same solution, the same functionality on-prem or any cloud environment? Is the solution portable? Can they just move the solution at a click of a button from on-prem to a cloud environment to multi-cloud environment without having to redesign that application or re-architect or rewrite some parts of their application? And this should be at the forefront for your customers to consider doing the modern application development on any underlying infrastructure. So it's not just application perspective, but also underlying infrastructure perspective.
So, I mean, what about making the right technology choices? I mean, let's be honest, most people look at the CNCF landscape as you've shown up there, and they come out dazed and confused. I mean, what would be your advice, and what's the best way for the customer to proceed? I mean, I look at that and I can't even choose.
Indeed, Mitch, I think this is a very obvious and a big problem for enterprises out there, because there are so many different projects with different kind of maturity level in the CNCF landscape. Some projects are just new, just barely as a bleeding edge, or some are very mature and like becoming like a de facto standard. If you might have a Kubernetes and Prometheus and Grafana, for example, like that. Now, as there's so many options and opinionated solutions that are available for customers to choose from, there is also a very steep learning curve. Which one would you choose? How do you like to integrate with them? How do you secure these applications? How do you install that? It's a very, very challenging landscape for customers, right? And you do not know what kind of product will still be available, which of this open source project will still be there in a 5-year time, 10-year time, right? And how you're going to get the support for this kind of products that you might be adopting. Getting a 10 different customers because you have 10 different open source projects you're adopting, or finding one provider who can solve all those challenges for you in a nice and simplified way. So these are some of the things to be very wary of. Security vulnerability is something also that customers would typically face when they're trying to manage everything by themselves. Is they need to understand what is the next vulnerability, how do they patch it, how do they manage it, and how do they integrate all of these various things together. So these are some of the key worries that enterprises have. Now, in our view, for modern application development, customers would need certain specific things, right?
Yeah.
One thing they definitely need is a modern operating system, which is secure, robust, with a huge amount of virtualization and automation available to them out of the box to make the system of operation of application much more easier. Then they need is a container infrastructure runtime to make sure that they are getting the robust container orchestration, containers management engine, as well as a very strong, great networking and storage capabilities for that kind of enterprise. Now, Mitch, I'm sure you know what we have available over here for our enterprise customers.
Yeah, you're talking on my language here. Yeah. So with our Oracle Linux and cloud native environment, we offer exactly what you're talking about. This is completely open source and built with open source projects from CNCF and available with enterprise grade support, right? So, I mean, what else is required, Sid? I mean, isn't just a good container infrastructure management enough to let the customers loose on that and let them play with that? I mean, do you need something more?
Absolutely, Mitch. What we need is a container application management. So this is good for just the operating system, just the infrastructure on which you're going to run your cloud native container solution stack. But you need something which will help you manage your application across the various Kubernetes engine or container runtime and container orchestration engine. You need a very value-added solution for looking after your cloud native solution, the application lifecycle management. Because your traditional application was quite big, but in the cloud native world, you have an application built of multitude of microservices. It might be 10, 15, hundreds of microservices making that one application. So you need to look after the life cycle of that various different individual components. How do you secure it? How do you manage it? How do you monitor it? How do you get the traffic management of that application? How do you get all the logging of all those various components into a single place? How do you do the monitoring of that application, including the patching, the upkeep, and troubleshoot that solution for yourself? Maybe share the data between these different microservices that are coming up, right? And especially the application security, from not only the application tier to the way it interacts between different services, to the way it's interacting with the backend, from the infrastructure tier, as well as to the hardware tier, right? So all of those things is what is needed from an enterprise-grade application runtime. And this is where we believe our solution called Verrazzano is going to absolutely help that, the enterprise container platform.
So that's it, Verrazzano. So give me some more detail. I mean, elaborate a bit more on this.
Absolutely. So Verrazzano is an open source curated stack from Oracle, right? Which consists of some key unique CNCF projects, which we pull together, which we believe works really well together and gives a true benefit to the customers who are out there, right? It's integrated, it's deeply tested, and thoroughly provided in a simplified way for customers to adopt it. a simplified installation. Just by using an operator or CLI command, you can have the whole stack created or stood up in a matter of minutes, like 15 to 20 minutes. I've tried it myself. It gives you a lot of capabilities, right? So you might ask, what kind of capabilities is Verrazzano offering to our customers? It gives you intelligent workload management for your applications that could be consistently deployed across multiple Kubernetes clusters wherever they are. So the intelligent workload may be, or it is that you can create your setting up the namespace for your Kubernetes, certificates, security between your different components of your application, setting up the whole traffic management rules and observability stack, getting together all the log information, getting together all the observability side of things, all of that stuff done for you as part of just a simplified deployment to any Kubernetes target that you might have. Intelligent management of component lifecycle. As I said, you might have an application which has got multiple different microservices and multiple different components. Now, if one of them changes, you want to dynamically change to a rolling restart without having any outages to your application. That kind of capability is offered to you through Verrazzano. Just by changing that particular container images, you're able to deploy the updated flavor and seamlessly move your workload as well. Automatically getting hold of the logging and monitoring information. Just by deploying your application, we are setting up that kind of getting together, scraping of all the log information, all the monitoring information, and offering that as a single pane of glass for your application stack. Then managing the multitude of Kubernetes clusters that you might have, from an infrastructure management to the way you can visualize the different applications and services, all from the single plane for your application stack. And then let's not forget about the security, the multi-tier, the multi-level security, from the networking to the end user application, to the way the services are interacting with each other, to the way you might interact with the backend system, right? All of this is offered as a cross-cloud consistent platform.
Okay, this is great. I mean, but how is Verrazzano different to other solutions? Isn't Oracle just forking and modifying the open source projects for their use and pushing these out to the customers? Isn't that just another lock-in and a different name?
Absolutely not, Mitch. So this is where we believe we pull together all the open source projects, all the unique CNCF projects, which we believe really work well together, such as we have pulled together FluentD and OpenSearch for getting together all the log information, using OpenSearch and OpenSearch dashboard to visualizing the log and to be able to interact with the log in a much more meaningful fashion. Prometheus and Grafana for all your monitoring information. So Prometheus will be gathering all your monitoring from various different microservices and your infrastructure itself. And Grafana, a nice way to visualize that monitoring information that's been captured. Keycloak and Istio for your service discovery and service security of your application stack. Kiali and Jaeger for you to use for troubleshooting and understanding how your applications are interacting with each other. Rancher for the multi-Kubernetes cluster management and the visualization of your application from a single pane of glass is also offered over here. And then let's not forget about Valero, or nice and simplified way of having a DR as well as backup and recovery of your Kubernetes cluster, all the solution stack that you might be deploying as well. And the most critical part of them all, using open application model to define your modern application and to define a way of how you're developing and deploying this application across the simplified way on multi-Kubernetes cluster, right? That's what we are offering with Verrazzano, a nice opinionated stack, which is completely vanilla implementation of all of these projects from CNCF, which is pulled together to create Verrazzano. So with this stack, what we are now enabling customers to do is to take their existing traditional application that they might have, containerize that application, and deploy through Verrazzano, sitting side by side with the modern microservices that they might have developed by using any Java-based lightweight microservices framework like Halidon and Spring Boot, or Micronaut or even Quarkus kind of thing, or any polyglot container-based microservices that they might have built. Everything could be managed, monitored, deployed in a multi-cloud, on-prem, or even public cloud environment in a seamless fashion. So giving you a consistent experience across all of this from a single pane of glass.
Okay, so Sid, from what I'm gathering, I think this addresses the challenge of bad technology choices for the customer, right?
Absolutely. So as we are saying, we are opinionated, curated stack. So we are pulling together all these open source projects in a pure vanilla form. It's not been tinkered with. It's not been changed at all. It's a pure open source project. So the most mature projects we see in the industry, in the landscape, we pull together to give it a nice and simplified way of customers to adopt it, install it, configure it, and run with it, right?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so am I getting this right, Sid? As Oracle, we're now offering a complete, comprehensive capabilities for enterprises to run their modern cloud-native stack, which is suitable for hybrid, multi-cloud environments. So I knew about OCNE, but this seems to be the final piece of the puzzle, am I right?
Yes, indeed, Mitch. So with this, we're not only helping you run on a Kubernetes cluster, we're giving you all the value-added capabilities that is needed by enterprises to run their mission-critical system in a cloud-native world. So by running their application anywhere, seamlessly moving their workload anywhere they like, ability to define their application in an agnostic format, and seamlessly, ability to move their workload. And this is pure open source projects, right? There's nothing proprietary about it, nothing customized to the way it needs to work with Verrazzano. We're just making it easier for adoption for customers. The way you define your application is also using OAM, which is the community specification of creating or defining your cloud native workload, right? So it's a very nicely packaged solution for the customer. I think one thing I didn't mention before was not only we are testing all of these various versions of CNCF components together, we're integrating them well together. We enable you to have the latest CVEs, the patching of the solution, the upgrading of the solution in a seamless fashion. So this makes your adoption of the cloud native workload that much more easier, and the journey towards the containerization also that much more easier.
Wow, this is great stuff, Sid. I mean, I think we can talk forever, but since we're running out of time, and if people would like to know more, what would you suggest, and where would we get more information from, or who do we talk to on the subject?
So to talk to this, I mean, this is, as you know, this is part of a series. So if you need to have any more information, just join us for the next session where we'll go into the detail of how we go about implementing this whole stack and whole solution approaches. We will be sharing with you some resources on how you can read more about Verrazzano and so on. Of course, you can reach out to me and Mitch if you'd like to do that. As well, what I like to say is this is a completely curated stack, and there's a lot of open source videos out there. There is lots of hands-on labs that are available out there, so you can just quickly start to play with. But do not hesitate to reach out to your Linux reps, your Linux consultants, and so on for getting the appropriate help.
Excellent. So before we go, Sid, I want to take a couple of questions. I see the chat is filling up. So the first one I want to pick at is, let's pick out this one. So is Verrazzano covered by the Oracle Linux Premier support subscription? And if not, how is it licensed? So can you throw some light on that?
That's a great question. And maybe you can look at the slide and hopefully I can help you answer. So Oracle Linux Premier support enables customers or entitled customers for Oracle Linux, as well as Oracle Cloud Native Environment, which is that container infrastructure runtime that customers might require. Verrazzano is another subscription SKU that customers could have, which can work, which pre-requires you to have entitlement for Oracle Linux Premier support. But it works very nicely in synergy. So actually think about it this way, it's very simplified licensing, right? So if you look at the open source projects, you might have to go to 10 or 15 or 20 different open source projects, get individual support, reach out and have different contracts. We have made it very, very simple. Just two SKUs or just two product entitlement gives you the complete stack that could be running on any environment, on-prem, in Oracle Cloud, even a third-party cloud, make it so much easier for you to get the commercial support and the portability. Everything is integrated and tested together. It's completely open source. There's nothing proprietary in here, and it can run anywhere you like. So that's what the key value or the key story for modern enterprises is with Oracle Stack.
Excellent. That's a brilliant answer. I think it covers it perfectly. So the next question I have is, how close to the mainstream releases are the various Verrazzano components like Rancher, Istio, and Prometheus? And what are the expected release cycles? Can you throw some information on that?
That's a very good question, Mitch. And I think this is important because, as you know, the CNCF landscape is always moving, always evolving. There's new flavors of Kubernetes coming all the time. How you can keep up to date with your various CNCF component tooling itself. So what we do in Verrazzano is we make sure that whenever there's a new flavor of Kubernetes that's out there, We certify the Verrazzano on top of it. We take on the latest CVEs, the patches, the bug fixes, and ensure the whole platform is tested, integrated, and upgraded to the latest versions that are supported on the latest version of Kubernetes before it's being shipped out. So we're trying to keep it as closely aligned as possible with the latest version of Kubernetes.
Okay, brilliant. So finally, I want to take a last one and from the chat, and this is around OAM, because I think we only briefly touched on it. So the question is, the open application model was mentioned but not clarified. Do we need to rewrite our applications to conform to some sort of Oracle proprietary standard?
Okay, so that's a good question. There are two key points to mention over here. OAM is a community-driven specification started by Microsoft and Alibaba. Oracle has started to adopt it and start to contribute that to that as well. There is nothing proprietary about OAM, right? It's an open source way of defining your application, which could be easily run in environment agnostic way. So you're not defining a specification specifically to a particular Kubernetes cluster or to particular vendors' solution stack. It's a very agnostic way of defining it. Secondly, there's no code change required for your application. All you're doing is defining or creating a component definition to say what are the parts of your cloud native application, and then application definition, both using a standard YAML file, yet another markup language way of defining it. Very easily humanly readable, very easy to make it part of a CI/CD pipeline. And that's what gives us the pure flexibility or the ability to deploy your code or deploy your application seamlessly between your on-prem Kubernetes cluster to a cluster that might be running on Oracle Cloud or even third-party cloud, and seamlessly distribute across all of those environments, all by having that simplified definition of OAM.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thanks, Sid. I really appreciate your valuable input as always. I mean, let's catch up soon. And I see there are quite a few more questions in the chat, and apologies I couldn't get to all of them. Please contact either of us, either Sid or myself, or your sales consultants, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Now, let me hand back to our moderator, and thank you for joining.
You can learn more and get the latest information from these sites. Our next webinar in this series will be on how to get started with multi-cloud Kubernetes on January 11th. You can register for it or for the full webinar series by scanning the QR code or visiting oracle.com/open hybrid cloud native. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day. Really nice to see you all. Stay safe.
Thank you.